We are live.
Really?
It's alive.
All right then.
Just gonna tweet here, and then we'll be all set.
What was with Triply Space Clone?
What? Are you high on cocaine already?
No, I'm staring at the chat. There's someone named Triply Space Clone that made a whole bunch of weird messages.
Oh,
Numbers,
well.
mostly numbers.
I see someone with Chase Schultz saying 1, and that's the only thing that shows up in the chat right now. It must be from a while ago.
Yeah. I think I left this open from last night.
Probably.
Oh, that would do it. Maybe he thinks it's Twitch plays Pokemon, and he's just like, oh wait, no one's responding or anything. Twitch plays Rifts? That'd be weird.
Oh God!
I don't know if
How
that's
would you
possible.
even?
You wouldn't, unless you had a Rift skin for Pokemon. Yay Rifts! Exactly. Yay Rifts. We missed last week because of illness. We are without Criana, but we are making... next week we might not be playing on Sunday. We might be playing on another day. So she can join us, so she doesn't miss 2 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But before we start the session proper, do you guys have any questions for me?
I think I'm good.
No, I think we're good.
Yep.
All right, you guys want to show off some art? I know we've had some art in the past 2 weeks. Mostly done by Criana Face, but one done by Allie for sure.
Sure. Let me pull these up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shockingly unprepared for all of this. I'm opening up so many things. I've just got to the Twitters where all the arts are.
Oh yeah, no worries. As you can, I'm not like the soup Nazi. I'm not like the wrist Nazi, where I'm like, everyone must be ready to play now, and if you do not, I will gas you. Like Butterfreeze.
Dun dun.
No, this is. I don't have a special Halloween thing in mind. If anything, I would think that Mila's Ebazir of the Mind's Eye going into Mila's mind was pretty spoopy last week, or sorry, the week before last. So you can always re-listen to that if you really want to get scared.
That is true, actually. That was an emotional roller coaster there.
Yes, but I'm not going to try to force things along a terrifying route for the sake of a real life holiday. I don't have Christmas specials or anything like that. Now, if we did something separate, like, say, I don't know, Tyrath GMing the group as a fun little aside, then sure. But I'm not going to make my game world that. I'm going to make it a little bit more organic than that, I'm not going to force anything.
All right.
I'm not going to force anything.
So first up, we have a drawing of Al, done by Allie.
Mm-hmm.
This is Al with his...
Did we see that one already? No matter.
It's fine. Al in his new haircut and elf ears and all that good stuff.
Oh, that one. Yeah. I remember pointing out the irony of this character. Death in one hand, life in the other.
Well, that could be death in both hands. That needle could have poison.
I thought that too.
And that knife could be a scalpel that saves someone's life and cutting out their appendix. So, I mean, it's open to interpretation.
It makes the grin creepy, actually.
Slightly.
But it's beautiful drawing.
Mm-hmm. Then we have one done of new Al with his new haircut, done by Criana. And then we have another one done by Allie of Mila, Nora, and I think Mariah. In a whole bunch of in a field. Pretty nice. Has her little hammer and has her little headphones and everything. It's great. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have one of Tom's new haircut, and this was done by Criana.
Yeah, I forgot Tom dyed his hair.
Dyed his hair? No,
Didn't
he
he?
didn't.
Doesn't he have brown hair? Like, I'm looking at your token.
no.
Oh.
He's had black hair
Alright.
for a while.
You're the only character who's dyed their hair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just looking at his token, but
Mila's put on a purple wig.
Yeah.
Artistic impersonation, right?
Oh, it looks fantastic. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome.
And then we have one of Blink. Done by Criana.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okie dokie. Are you guys good to get started?
I think so.
I think so.
Okay, well, you better be, because we're starting. No time for thinking. So when we last left off, you were unceremoniously asked to leave the abode of Nebazir of the Mind's Eye after a rather shocking and disturbing and unanticipated event in which caused a ripple of empathetic shockwaves, causing Nebazir's little soiree to end quite dramatically. And you were standing on the streets of Skyscape, still in the astral section of town. The Astral City, for lack of a better word. Well, no, the entire place is called the Astral City. But suffice to say, it's an area of Skyscape that seems to be made entirely of a strange ectoplasmic substance. And it is here that we last left off. Mila is unconscious. She has fallen asleep soon after you have hit the road. And she is currently slung. Bear is pretty much cradled her. He is a large, strong wolfen. He's picked her up in kind of like a bridal style in carrying her.
Mhm.
And the question is to you, my fellow friends, my fellow players. Well, you are my friends, but right now you're my players. Friends and players. What would you like to do? Is there any other information you need from me at the moment to assist you in deciding, or what are you thinking?
I do have a question. So we have been kind of put outside. What is the atmosphere like around us? Are people panicking, running from the building? Is it pretty calm? Is it?
No, most people ran from the building long before you exited. The 16 or so invitationals to the soiree have already made their escape, and they cannot be seen on the streets. In fact, the street itself seems pretty calm, very similar to when you arrived. There's only about maybe 4 or 5 other beings, 1 corporeal, 4 astral, that seem to be traveling down the road. None of them, from what you can tell, are looking towards you or reacting towards you or reacting to what happened. You don't hear any sirens, any alarms, or any of the sort. Whatever happened in that pocket in Nebazir's office, we'll say, has not seemed to have bled out into the streets.
All right. Al would probably say then to Bear and the others, it might be best to get her somewhere where we can lay her down and I can check her. I mean, just to make sure there's no physical. I mean, I don't know.
Patrick moves his head towards you and looks you. You notice that most times Patrick is fairly fidgety and generally doesn't look you straight in the eye, but looks you in the face and then says, "That'd be a good idea."
Al will nod and then kind of look around and be probably go to the first person he can find.
Well, see, you say the word person.
Yeah.
Do you mean
loosely.
person or being?
The first being that he thinks would be able to communicate with him.
Well, okay. Well, I'll send you to the first being. You don't know whether you can communicate with them or not.
Right.
So until you try to communicate with them, right?
Right.
So unless they have like no mouths or something like that. Suffice to say, give me a moment here. Just a moment or two. Ooh. Okay. Give me just another moment or two. Just got to open up a few tabs and refer to a few things, so I'm not humming and hawing during this interaction, you know?
Yes.
Oh, come on. There we go. Stupid computer. I mean, I love you, computer. Don't ever change. Unless it's going faster than you can change. Then you can definitely change.
So, anybody having any interesting Halloween events?
No.
Burn and Squee?
No, my neighborhood did this thing that was kind of cool during the month where you leave a basket of goodies in front of someone's house and ring the doorbell and ding and ditch. And the basket has like a thing like, you've been booed, here's this, please refill it and do it to another house that doesn't have a sign on it that's already been done. That was kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, I ran like a madman from my house.
All
jumping
right.
bushes and stuff.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
So the first person to pass by near the group seems to be a strange being made almost of pure ectoplasm that seems to be in an octagonal shape. You don't know if you can communicate it with it or not. However, luckily, fortunately, I mentioned there was a corporeal being down the street, and after the strange ectoplasmic shimmering octagon passes you by, this person seems to be only about 50 feet behind, and he's coming down the street from the north. He is a very tall man with light purple skin. Actually, the purple is so light that it's actually has small shades of crimson or red in it as well, or pinkish hue to it. He's dressed in a long black cloak, which covers his entire 7.5-foot form. And although he looks pretty human, for the most part, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, 2 hands, and 2 legs, he has absolutely no hair, and his cranium appears to, from his nose upward across the entire top of his head, it looks almost scale-like, like a craggy cliff made of scales that cover his head. And he takes a small sidelong glance at you, as most travelers do, as he continues down the street. But he does slow his pace when he notices Al approach him, and he turns his head inquisitively towards you.
Excuse me, sir. I was wondering if you could help me.
Kalahana, my language you speak is not the best. It has been a while since I've been to your... He struggles for the word. Earth place.
Oh, then I thank you in advance. We're looking for an inn.
Slow down, please.
We are looking for an inn, a place to sleep.
In southeast of city, special place for Earth place kind. Go to Scarlet Dome. Refresh.
Scarlet
And he
Dome.
points down the road closer towards the bazaar, and he says, "Follow to end."
Al nods and not quite sure how to thank him. He just like closes his eyes and like tilts his head forward, hopefully in respect, and says, "Thank you."
He gives a short nod and takes a look at Bear and the unconscious Mila, and he juts his chin over towards Mila and says, "Hurt?"
Maybe.
I look.
I would strongly not do such things. We have
Strongly
just
not?
come. Yes. Do you speak? And Patrick's going to say Draconic in Draconic.
He gives a happy smile, and he responds fluently, completely fluently in Draconic, and he says, now this is a language I can understand. How can I assist you? What seems to be the matter?
We've come from a bad situation. Our friend is currently unconscious through what we thought was a checkup. We are trying to currently help her physically.
You are outside the place of great mystical healer named Nezir of the Mind's Eye. I'm sure he can assist you.
Oh, we're looking for more conventional means at this point.
I see. Then my suggestion is that you go down, follow this road, and head into the bazaar and ask for one of the Sai Warriors. They are the law order in Saiscape. They'll be able to assist you.
Thank you. I am unfamiliar with this place.
Clearly you are. But you're lucky I'm not in too much of a hurry. If I can guide you in any position, let me know, although I will not be able to accompany you. I have other business matters to attend to.
Of course. Thank you so much for your charity.
Charity, he says. You are simple travelers who are asking a few very simple questions. If that is seen as a great favor, then I feel sorry for whatever place you came from. This is a civilized place of art, music, and good ideas, and kind people, for the most part.
I thank you either way.
Well, is that all? I also know some healing magic. I can assist your friend if you like.
Most kind, but we are a bit wary at this point.
I see. Well, do you need anything else from me?
No, sir.
All right. Well, may the sun always rest on your shoulders. Good day. And with that, he will walk away.
Patrick will turn to the group and explain that we need to go to the bazaar and was it Sai Warriors?
Yep, Sai Warriors. And ask for a Sai Warrior for assistance.
Because they are the law, the police, the lawbringers of this place.
So we shouldn't go to this other place he mentioned?
Why are we looking for the police?
Apparently they will be of more assistance or be able to maybe do something. I am assuming we are looking for a conventional hospital.
Well, I don't know if it's necessary yet. I was just going to put her down somewhere where she can rest, and I can check her out to see if she even needs a hospital. If the strain was purely mental, then a hospital wouldn't be able to do anything I couldn't do.
Bear says quietly, "She doesn't look harmed. She is not bleeding. There are no bruises."
Al nods. That was my first thought. I think perhaps just a place for rest and a chance to give her a thorough checkup just to be sure. But from what I saw in there was no physical damage done. And if it was mental damage, well, we just came from the mental healer. So I think the first step would be get her a place where she can rest.
"Then lead on," says Bear.
Al would look to Patrick. Do you still think that perhaps going to the Sai
Warriors.
Warriors would still be a better option than where he pointed out? I mean, they would certainly know where to go to rest, and perhaps they'd have better information than what we were given.
Both are good options, and I think both will lead us to exactly where we need to go.
Then how about we seek them out? Because if it's not too far out of the way, then if the information that our friend gave us was right, then they would point us that direction anyway. And if for whatever reason it wasn't the best option, we would know.
Patrick would nod.
Sure. I mean, we just walked into essentially the one person that we should have gone to, and he tossed us out and started screaming, so I have no idea what to do. Anywhere seems like a good idea at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we can deal with once we're sure Mila's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you retrace your steps out of the Cloud District, out of Cloud City. And as you continue along, you're perhaps relieved, perhaps not, doesn't really matter, that the purely ectoplasmic, vaporous, cloud-like environment gives way to the familiar, the more corporal, the more grounded in reality, for lack of a better word, of the bazaar. You see various stalls, merchants, tents, small buildings set up selling a variety of goods, from spices to alcohol, foods, fruits, vegetables, fabrics of many vibrant colors, housewares, raw materials, tools, and alike, and artwork, of course. You also can see in the distance the center of the bazaar, in which the gem handler, the strange bald man sitting cross-legged on his yellow pillow, is still there, surrounded by that multicolored of strange dendrite-like gems. What do you guys do? The bazaar is, although not absolutely teeming with people, does have, it seems to be, a fair number of merchants and consumers alike, wandering, haggling, conversing with themselves, and purchasing products. Just let me know what you'll like to do. It can be in or out of character. I just don't want to, I don't want to lead you guys by the nose, right?
Right. Patrick would most likely ask around, specifically at the counter first, where the Sai Warriors may be posted. I have a question for them.
Okay. Nearby, the closest merchant nearby is a scant 60 feet away. Seems to be a woman of perhaps more of a Caribbean heritage. She is human and she does speak American, thankfully. And she explains that the Sai Warrior headquarters is near the halls of government, which is approximately half a mile directly to the south, right next to the consulate, where many individuals from the Earth and other dimensions come to do a variety of shopping and exchanges. She says, however, they do patrol the city, ensuring that they can assist.
Do they have a symbol to be to notify people that they are a Sai Warrior? So we may find one on the street.
All right.
Oh, he's coming back.
What's up?
Maybe he's apparently forced mute on Discord.
Oh no.
I don't see that on my end.
Discord, no.
No, like he's obviously muted.
Right.
I'm not muted.
Oh, there it
There
is.
we go.
I was disconnected. What was the last thing you heard from me?
Piph asked if there was any markings to identify him. That was
Yeah.
the last thing.
Okay. I responded, but obviously Discord was derping out here. She responds, yes, of course. They're dressed in all white clothes, tightly form-fitting clothes underneath with a white tabard above them. They're all very young and their eyes glow. They'll be pretty easy to point out. And she actually pauses for a moment, raises a hand, and scans over the horizon. Not over the horizon, over the busy marketplace, the bazaar. And she says, there, across from Balak, the spice merchant. If you run, you can catch them. And as you follow her finger, you indeed see a young man with platinum blonde hair, extremely athletic and fit. He is weaving through the clouds, and sure enough, his eyes reflect a silvery light. He's about 200 feet away.
Patrick would briefly say thank you, and then go off on a brisk jog towards him.
Okay. What did the rest of the players do?
Al will follow him, but keeping pace with Bear.
Same.
Well, Bear will be following as well. All right. You weave through the crowds, all of you. Some individuals part before you even come close to them. Others, you have to excuse yourself. But you are able to catch up to this Sai Warrior without any problems. He senses, well, I don't know if he senses you, but the movement of you moving to the crowds directly towards him definitely catches his attention. As he turns towards you, and when you're about 30 feet away, he stops where he is and faces towards you and looks at you expectantly.
Hello. We are looking for a place of, I believe it's rest. Our friend is unconscious, and we are hoping to find a nice, quiet place to find out what may be wrong.
The Sai Warrior responds in a deep baritone voice, slightly melodic too, as he says, unconscious. Why? What has happened?
I'm currently, as he pauses, I am not familiar with the mental status of my friend or what may have happened to her, and we are
Well,
currently
start
trying to
from the
find.
beginning. Start from the beginning, he says. How was she rendered unconscious? As he begins to step towards Bear.
Patrick pauses for a moment.
As you pause for a moment, the Sai Warrior is now standing directly in front of Bear. He hovers his hand above Mila's forehead, and
Don't.
he ignores you, unless you do
Al,
something else.
Al, seeing that everyone is so hesitant, he'll say, "We took her to." I'm sorry, GM. You might have to help me on the name again for the
Nebazir
Nebazir.
of the
Yeah.
Mind's Eye.
We took her to Nebazir of the Mind's Eye for some mental healing. It didn't go well, and she collapsed under the strain.
Mm-hmm.
He opens his silvery eyes and withdraws his hand, and he says, "She is sleeping."
Yes. We're looking for a place to give her rest.
I see. He says, "She is not harmed. I sense no possession. I sense no physical interior injuries, nor exterior ones. She is asleep. Have you tried waking her?"
Given what she's been through, and I admit I'm not quite sure what that is, I think the best course of action is letting her sleep and wake up on her own, assuming that's a reasonable amount of time.
The Sai Warrior faces towards you, and he crosses his arms, and he says, "So you simply need a recommendation of where to sleep. Although I do admit you are all being very cryptic as to what happened with Nebazir. He is known as a great healer. Has there been an incident?
My
Have other
apologies.
people been harmed?"
We're not intending to be cryptic. We simply don't have much information. We took her to get healing from him. He attempted to. Something happened, and she collapsed, and he
Please
asked us to
go
leave.
into great details as to something.
He then proceeded
What
to
happened?
scream and yell and command us to get out of his room, along with all of the other people who were there as well. He had several
Unfortunately,
friends.
How
there.
many other people were there?
Over a dozen at least.
Yeah.
I see. Did you get any names?
No. Unfortunately.
They were his closest
Very well.
colleagues.
I see. Well, it is clear that you are lost and confused. My suggestion is to go to the consulate. It is only about any points off behind them towards the southeast. It is nearby. It has accommodations that places for food that will accept currency. Is it fair to assume that you are from Earth?
Yes, that is a fair assumption.
And we accept all forms of trade and currency from Earth as well. It is, for lack of a better word, almost ambassador to that planet. There you will find everything that you need, and if you excuse me, I believe I will speak with this Nebazir myself. Perhaps he'll be able to detail more with what the problem is, or what had occurred. But your friend is in no great harm, from what I can tell on a physical sense, and since I do not have her consent, I cannot probe her mind. Therefore, I wish you the best. If things do turn poorly, we are everywhere in this city, and our headquarters is very close to the consulate itself. And he points over to a shining, almost like a Camelot-like turret tower building, which is made of this pale yellow stone that you could swear seems to glow with its own kind of inner light. Nothing too bright, but a dull throb. It's one of the various landmarks across the skyline of the city as he points towards it.
Well, I thank you for your help, and
If
we.
if you do find anything out from Nezir, could you possibly let us know? We'll be at the consulate.
Unfortunately, the consulate has dozens of places to rest and over 30 places in which to get refreshment. I do not know where you're going to stay unless you want to go on one of my recommendations. Also,
We
of course, I
can,
need your names.
of course. We'll be happy to accept one of your recommendations, and my name is Al.
Tom.
Al what?
Uh, well, Alcibiades is that's it. Just Alcibiades.
I see.
My name is Tom. Thomas Brown.
Mm-hmm. He looks
Patrick.
over to Bear.
Patrick Kinsman.
And Bear just rumbles out his name. Very well. The the Scarlet Dome Refresh Hotel is the most distinct, simply because its dome is indeed a scarlet red. It should be easy to find, and it is small enough that its patronage will not be confusing if I ask around for your names.
Sounds
we
good.
were told that once before, so it's nice to be reaffirmed. Thank you. We'll go there.
And he'll give a small nod and watch as you leave before he himself departs. All right, where are you guys headed? Consulate? Scarlet Dome?
Yeah, Bear's been carrying her for a while. He's got to be, though he'd probably never say it. Probably got to be getting tired.
He shifts her
Scarlet
around
Dome.
from time to time, but he doesn't complain. You're right. Okay. So as you leave the bazaar and once again go past the strange exotic gardens near the center of the city, sure enough, you begin to find buildings that seem much more familiar in both architecture and materials. It looks like a place, a combination of Tolkien and Ishpeming. Ishpeming was known of having a variety of modern buildings made of high metal alloys, where Tolkien was known of having buildings of great stonework that seemed to be shape of either great feats of skill or magic itself. Give me a moment
All right.
as I block that guy. All right, so sure enough, there are a variety of restaurants, hotels, and theaters. But sure enough, one of the most prominent is, sure enough, a building seemed to be made of stone. It is completely circular, and its dome is made of not glass, but seems to be this strange, well, stone that seems to radiate its own scarlet light. I won't go through the nitty-gritty, frankly, if it's okay by you, of checking in, getting a room. Suffice to say, they do accept universal trade credits, as well as they do not take black market credits, but they would take Northern Gun or other currencies of major cities, populations. They also take gold, gems, and trade. It would cost to rent a room for a single night. Is that fair? For a 24-hour period? Is that fair enough? What you guys are looking to
I think
Yeah.
so.
rent?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the equivalent of 75 credits. It would have 2 large beds in it. So for your entire group to get some rest, you would probably need about 2 or 3 rooms, depending on what your sleeping arrangements are like.
Okay. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to get 2, 3 rooms?
I think 2 should be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. There's
So-
you, me, Patrick, Bear, and Mila, right?
Yeah.
So make sure to subtract 150 credits from whatever payment source you want to use. What are you going to use out of curiosity?
I think it would be safe
Universal trade
to.
credits?
Yeah. I mean, we do have the Ishboming
Okay.
credits, but they're all fake. I don't really want
Where-
to.
Yeah. Is that the Northern Gun one, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Northern Gun, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll give a brief description about the interior. It seems to be made this particular hotel, a place of lodging. Its center area is the reception and other accommodations, where the rooms are all along the outside. So imagine almost like a donut shape. There are 40 rooms in all of them the exact same size, so they don't have different classifications. They have comfortable, clean rooms, and what's really significant about the Scarlet Dome Refresh Hotel is it is plastered with art, both sculptures, clay work, and of course visual art on the walls. Sorry, visual art. Painted paints of portraits and whatnot. Some of the paintings are of vast landscapes. Some of them are portraits of individuals and DBs. Suffice to say, the architecture itself is very Greco-Roman in a sense. But you're able to check in and go to your room without any interference. Bear would lay Mila down on one of the empty beds of the first room that you checked in, and after giving his right elbow a small rub, he looks to Al expectantly.
Al would well, he wouldn't pull out his medical kit because that's more like trauma stuff. But is it fair to say that he'd have like a stethoscope, maybe a something to test blood pressure, that kind of thing in there?
Well, and I said when you guys disembarked the Rhapsody that we weren't going to spend an hour going over your checklist. So if you think your character would have taken it, and you have reasonable room on your person in your armor to take it, then yes.
Okay. So he's gonna just roll Yeah, he will roll the check. He's gonna not exactly take that guy's word, even though he trusted he meant well. But he's gonna check out Mila himself and just give her a
All right.
non-invasive.
I believe you have a diagnostic skill when it comes to medical doctor, correct?
I do indeed.
Then please roll it.
Alright.
Don't make it harder or easier, either way.
Give me 1 second. Oh.
I'm assuming, is this going to be a thorough examination head to toe?
Yes.
Okay.
With, sparing her modesty type of thing.
Gotcha. With the exception of her needing to disrobe. Got
exactly. Yeah. Succeed by 38.
Okay. It takes you 30 minutes to do a full diagnostic. You check her reflexes, you check her eyes, ears, the whole shebang. And you are certain that she has no physical problems with her whatsoever, other than, obviously, the mind over matter implants. Even you've noticed in areas of her body that you're able to get to beyond her modesty, taking account of her modesty, that is. What's really astounding is that she doesn't seem to have much scar tissue, and you've seen her take a beating a few times.
Well, I think Al would be somewhat familiar with her healing ability by now, but he'd probably still be surprised that it heals so fast that
Without any scar tissue?
It doesn't use scar tissue as a placeholder type of thing.
Correct.
Yeah, so he would find that quite surprising. Because if I understand correctly, as a person, I think scar tissue is kind of what the body does as a placeholder and then tries to very slowly replace it with new skin.
I'm not too sure, honestly.
But yeah, but
all I know is that she doesn't have any.
Yeah.
Sure.
But he would, after the checkup, he'd kind of sit up and sigh and go, "Well, the guy was right. No physical trauma, just whatever happened to her, put her to sleep. Hopefully, she'll wake up. She'll be okay, but no better or no worse than she was before, which still isn't saying much."
Bear rumbles out and he says, I will stay with her until she wakes up. I think I do not know what you intend to do here still, whether we all will wait with Mila and depart this place, but I think this Nebazir needs to explain what he saw.
That might be a bit difficult now.
True.
Bear
Most-
gives a non-committal shrug.
Despite his current mental, emotional outbreak that he just did, for whatever reason that was, it looks like we might need to wait until the law enforcement is done with him before we can even come close to questioning him now.
True, but I mean, he's not the only one, right? I mean, we're here in a place that is people all around us that possibly could help. I can't just leave without trying everything we possibly can. I don't want to hurt
Patrick
Mila
looks at
anymore.
you, blinks once, and then says, "We are not going to another doctor until we know what he saw.
Okay.
I am willing to be more than patient to not have anything else happen."
Then that means that we need to know what he saw. And we need to figure out how to learn that.
It will take time.
Perhaps. Perhaps not. Nebazir is a reasonable man. I've seen people shooken up before. I've seen them do things when their emotions are high. Maybe he won't want to talk to us again. Maybe if we impress upon him how much help she needs, we can appeal to his humanity, I think is the wrong word to use, but you understand my meaning.
Of course. But as I said, patience.
Well, she's not hurt, so patience is something that we can spare. For now. So, what do you guys suggest we do in the meantime? Let her rest? Give him some time to calm down?
Both?
I was given some advice on looking into Morin's problem while we're here. Maybe we could look into that while we wait.
Yeah?
It's a good use of our time.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies, Inferno.
You don't remember what the advice was, do you?
I kind of remember it was like talking to the same guy, but if that's
Mhm.
the case, we might have to find other advice.
No, not the same guy.
Not the same guy.
The
Good.
gem
Okay, good.
to the gem purveyor.
Mm-hmm. We had to talk to the gem purveyor. We specifically talked to the gem purveyor for Mila's problem. Now we have to
Right.
talk to him about Morin's problem.
All right, so Bear, you said you were going to stay here with her, and no one can protect her better than you can, so better that than sitting here, unless you guys want to get some rest.
I think
It's
it's
only
fine.
been half a day, not even.
Yeah.
As drained as I am, I think a nice walk and something else to focus on might be nice.
Agreed. Okay, so I guess we'll head to the gym purveyor.
Okay. It's with Bear, with Mila, the three of you retrace your steps, pass through the consulate, past the garden, and back towards the bazaar. It takes a good 35-minute walk, And as you do so, you are able to, although there's obviously the rumble of a busy city, you don't hear nearly as much, for lack of a better word, noise pollution. There's very few vehicles in the streets. Most individuals seem to traverse by foot. There aren't a lot of shouts. There aren't any gunshots in the background. And what's even more interesting is that you do not hear the rumble of industry. No big smokestacks, no churning gears, nothing like that. Instead, you are greeted by off and on sounds of music, of live performances on the edge of streets or in open theaters. You can smell new scents of cooked food, um, new spices, and laughter. A lot of laughter you hear, both from children and of full-grown adults, from the ages of 2 to 90. The gem handler has just finished assisting another group of individuals. Appears to be a couple, two men, who also seem to be in, for lack of a better word, wilderness explorer body armor. But you only have to wait for about 3 minutes or so before they depart, kind of muttering amongst themselves. One of them seems to be a Sai stalker because of the completely bald head. Speaking of bald heads, the gem handler, this bald man of a large dome with those kind of blue veins that shimmer underneath his cream-colored skin, a man of intermittent age, although he might be very old. He's not young, right? But he's definitely not ancient. Still sits in his simple chair, cross-legged on the bright yellow pillow. As he looks towards you again, he goes, for a second time you visit me today. To what would you care to experience? What questions might you have about Skyscape, the astral city, and the denizens amongst it?
Well, this time, if you are willing to help us, it is less about Skyscape itself and more about the knowledge you may contain.
I may contain. Very interesting, he says. Although, if this were trouble and I were to send you along my way, I would be, well, frankly, very poor at my duty, my current station, my vocation in life.
Well, then I appreciate it that you are not.
Yes, so do I, he says with a half smile.
We have a, well, I can't rightly call her a friend, but a very close friend of ours once was her teacher. Her name is Morin. She was a shifter, traveled the rifts, and once traveled through a rift and came back changed, possessed by something, from what I understand, very powerful. And we've been trying to find a way to help her, but everyone who's tried has failed. And Al would go into the details, like all the details he knows about Morin.
Okay. Let's spare that part then.
Mm-hmm.
And say you speak with him for a good solid 20 minutes, in which detailing everything that you know, from your experiences with Morin to the way she acts, to things that she said, and even little mundane things, like when Mila tried to look into her head, she saw a giant eye. Little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be generous and not force you to remember that, since you can't even remember Nebazir's name from last session. Write these things down if you can't remember. It's just, never mind. All right, I'm not going to get into a rant like that. Anywho, and this is coming from me, a guy who's not good with names. Well, until I started writing things down, and then I'm pretty good with them. You know what I mean? But, Suffice to say, I like to say suffice to say, I've noticed. Oh, yes. During the 20-25 minutes in which you explain these, you have to wait a moment or two as other people inquire this. And a lot of their inquiries are, I want to try something new, a place to eat, right? Or where can I get this particular spice? And sometimes he would simply tell them. Sometimes a gem would be brought over to their way, right? Some people just look they point to that gem and say, "Oh, I want to check that out." And he kind of lets them know what it is and floats it on over to them. Oh my goodness. Regardless, you get all the information out to him. And he brings his two fingers, his index finger, his middle finger, to his chin. And he doesn't say anything for 3 minutes, but he seems to be deep in thought. And then he responds. He says, "Before I took my current vocation, before I shed my name, before I worked on the path to the above, I was extremely interested in beings of great power, you might call them. Others call them intelligences, others call them supernatural forces, others call them gods. Regardless, I was captivated by the most powerful, the most mysterious, and the most influential in our reality. Thankfully, although I may have shed my name, I have not shed my memories of this. There are a few things of your detailing of this young woman and her experiences that make me rule out the obvious. You say possessed. You are wrong. I believe there is a very good chance you are wrong of a possession. Shifters are known sometimes to create bonds with other individuals, pacts, agreements. What this agreement is depends between the shifter, the individual, and the power that they connect with. The manner in which he acts, distant and strange. The eye that you reported being seen when trying to graft into her mind, the very fact that others have had a hard time diagnosing with her, makes me think of only 3 possible options. He says the first is the least likely, but also perhaps the most obvious. A great eye. There is a powerful race known as the Splagorth. They are nefarious, they are evil, and they enjoy making corrupting deals. However, they typically leave those that make pacts with them more of greater faculties. However, she may have come across a Splagorth intelligence who either decided to play a game with her or himself is quite catatonic. Any individual who makes a pact with a Splagorth, there is a distinct superfluous third nipple upon the person's body, upon their torso. This superfluous nipple is actually in a small shape of a tentacle. If this Morn has such a mark, then it is clear that it is a Splagorth. But as I said, the faculties are not very clear. Her faculties acting the way she is, your friend, her old teacher, saying that she was sprightly, inquisitive, keen, implies a dramatic shift in personality, which makes me believe that the second option is more likely. There's something called a Cetaxian demon, a very powerful evil force that enjoys trickery and misery. It is known to make pacts with individuals, and it is very much well known to trick individuals in these pacts, wording things in a way that seems advantageous to the shifter or whomever might swear their allegiance to them, but in the end turns quite unfortuitous. Perhaps she made such a deal hoping to gain power or knowledge, and he himself has shocked her mind with so much power and knowledge that her body cannot contain it. These beings are also known to take the shape of multi-eyed individuals, very grotesque when they do reveal themselves. Thankfully, there is a way, I know of a way in which to determine whether an individual has made a pact with the Cetaxian demon. You need to draw a small portion of blood and put it in the bowl of silver spoon. Then you take fresh sage and burn it, and allow the smoke of the sage to hit the silver spoon. If an individual's blood turns to a jet black, then it is clear that they are influenced, shaped, and joined with the Cetaxian demon.
I see. And if that is the case, is there a way to help her?
If she is possessed with the Cetaxian demon, the only way in which to rid her of her bond is to find the demon she made a deal with and make a new deal with them. There is a final option. He pauses for 30 seconds and he says, if you find no superfluous nipple of the tentacle indicating a splagorth, if the blood does not turn black, and a Cetaxian demon's influence is not upon her, I can only think of one other being, one other entity in the universe that has the description of great eyes and could wield a power so great. Although, well, it is best if I simply tell you. This is not something I've seen. This is only something I have heard whispers. The first two I have learned by lore, reading, interviews. The last are just whispers. That in the universe, in all dimensions, there exists only one being, which is a living planet in which eyes are grown. These same eyes are harvested by the aforementioned Splagorth. This planet is believed to be sentient, although all communications with it have failed. It is known as Ilor. However unlikely, it is possible that this young woman may have bonded with it or attempted to communicate with it, and the result is, as you see, the possible afflictions that might invoke your acquaintance. There is, unlike my other two suggestions, there's no way of determining whether she is actually connected to this Ilor. Although, if you rule out the first two, it is the only other possible option. It is the only reason why I could think that no one else can determine what her problem is. Something so great and so unknown that even the best intentions are still foiled.
I see. Well, that is far more information than I have ever been able to find before, which I thank you for greatly.
What is the point of knowledge if it is not shared? He asks rhetorically. To keep it, to treasure it, so it may die when I pass, or when I ascend to another mental state? No. Secrets are useless. Knowledge is worthwhile to share. There's no need to thank me. I'm only doing what is right.
Al would think about it for a second, and then he would nod and he would say, "If only I didn't feel the need to thank someone when they did what was right. It seems so rare these days."
May I assume by your manner of dress that you are from Earth?
I am indeed.
I see. The Astral City has a close bond to it, and we have many travelers. They all speak very similar to you, although I admit many of them are much rougher. They assume all deals are crooked, that everyone has an ulterior motive. It is quite the culture shock when they arrive here. So if the worst that you do is simply thank when there is no need for thanks, you all get along nicely here.
If it helps understand them a little better, I come from a place where knowledge is to be guarded and kept only for the powerful, in a way to keep the less powerful in control. And that is very common on our world.
You are the one that resides there. I have not visited there in over 3 centuries.
In any case, again, thank you for your time. And then Al would not sure really what to do, what the etiquette is, probably just close his eyes and nod his head.
He nods in response, not mirroring you with the closed eyes, but he nods.
And then Al would take his leave.
There you go. All right, what would you guys like to do now?
You know, it's terrible to say, but I'm almost tempted to go to New Laszlo.
Well, I mean, I do want to go to New Laszlo. Trust me, I really want to go to New Laszlo, but we shouldn't leave before we find out.
Yeah, we need to
What
find
Nezir
out that
Yeah.
stuff too.
But again, yeah, I mean, this
Jesus,
is
a
great.
third nipple?
I know this is great information.
Yeah, that's perfect information. It's great.
But and plus, Al's sister might be there, so yeah, there's lots of reasons to go. But Mila needs help. So
Yes.
and Al and I care greatly about that too. So let's stick around just long enough to know that we can't find help here, or we have found what we could.
Okay.
And by the way, I'll
So
be
what
right
would you
back. I gotta.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, I can take the reins for this one.
Do it.
Plenty more for the rest of the day. Um, hmm. At the counter with the gems,
Mm-hmm.
Patrick would ask, would you have information or a gem on... it's been so long. I think it's like it's like angels or deities or something of light.
Beings of light, yeah.
Beings of light.
Sorry, I lost your question in this.
He's looking for any sort of if there's a tome or anything that he can read up on more of the beings of light.
All right. Give me a moment.
I'm back.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The gem handler gives you, he speaks you a word of advice or knowledge, and then he would hand you a gem or two. What he says is, if you're looking for formal learning or places of study, there is only one place, the academy here in Skyscape, in which would share history, literature, the sciences, philosophy, so forth, in which these beings of light would definitely be understood. However, you would have to be a citizen of Skyscape, own some sort of permanency here in the astral city in which to enroll. However, that is not to say that the knowledge is inaccessible. However, since the formal teaching might not be open to you just yet, there are individuals here in the bazaar and in their own private homes that have collections that might be open for sale or might sell tomes or gems of knowledge or be willing to teach. I'm aware of a few of these individuals who decide to inscribe their petitions onto these gems. Would you like to experience them?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Give me another moment, please.
Okay.
The first gem that floats your way is very small, maybe about the size of a quarter, but like many of the other ones there, seems to be almost tree-like or root-like in the way it is shaped rather than a simple oval or square or prism. And as it reaches out to you, do you go in and collect it? Do you let it fall into your hands?
I would, yes, he would probably collect it.
Okay. As it floats into your open palm, once again, your mind, a vision graces your mind. Nothing nearly as dramatic as Nebazir's advertisement, for lack of a better word. Things go dim for a moment, and the first thing you smell, Patrick, is the smell of an old, dusty tome. That smell of parchment that has not been exposed to fresh air in a long time. Soon you see a flicker of light. It appears to be an old candle made of a dripping blue wax. And you can see this candle lights up a single leather-bound book in front of you. The book, all of a sudden, is in your hand. It is weighty. And on the cover of it simply reads, Jezebel's Tomes and Scrolls. Whether you intend to or not, after you're done reading the cover of the book, its leather front cover opens up. It seems that there's only a single page in it. But the single page is an illustration of a squat building made of obsidian black stone that has bright orange, yellow, and blue banners flying above it. And it implants a very small memory, a memory that will fade from your mind within 2 or 3 hours. But you know now that this building is in the bazaar. You know it's only about 300 feet from the gem merchant, and it's just down a small, twisty side alley. And with that, it clears. Please tell me you heard all that.
I did.
Yeah, we did.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. I hate repeating myself because of technological difficulties.
It sounds bad.
Yeah. So, would you like the other gem?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Give me another moment, please. Okay. This gem is, oddly enough, unlike the others, in the fact that it is a orange. Well, I was going to say an orange color orange, but it is a deep orange, and it is a prism, a perfectly mathematically perfect prism. As it floats up over towards you, do once again allow it to rest into your hands.
Yep.
Okay. And as you do so, you hear a jubilant sound of horns, flutes, and pipes playing a jaunty little tune. The vision clears. This music gets muted as if it's being played behind the walls of a building. And sure enough, in front of you is this big wooden gate. Seemed to be made of like entire big trunks of trees. And as the music continues to play, you can hear an added bass line to it, like drums slowly pounding. In this vision that the gem imparts upon you, you realize, wait a second, it's not a bass sound of drums. Those are footsteps, because you can feel the vibrations from the soles of your feet up your legs. Something is coming from the other side of that big wooden gate. And as it opens up, you see a giant, a literal giant. You've read about these before, known as cloud giants. This one appears to be female, towering 16 feet tall, dressed in what appears to be a simple flowing toga-like manner of dress, although the linens wrap around her several times over. The fabric itself is made of a very dim mustard yellow. She has two big, piercing blue eyes and raven black hair that falls loosely on her shoulders. And over the sound of pipes, she says, "If you want knowledge, come see me. But knowledge has its price. I only trade stories for stories." And with that, the vision fades. Similar to the first gem, you get momentarily in your mind, that only lasts a few hours, an impression of where this place is, where this home is. And it is in a residential area, directly to the north of the gardens themselves. I won't detail you with names of streets and whatnot. Suffice to say, if you do intend to go there, you would remember. You would know how to get there from the gem merchant. And if you ever forget, you can always request that orange prism again to refresh your memory.
All right.
Okie dokie. What would you guys like to do?
I think I have a question for the gem merchant.
Okay.
I was wondering if, and I know this will probably seem weird and strange, if you know of any kind of way to nullify psychics or psionics.
The gem merchant, normally with a calm, placid smile on his face, looks directly towards you. And although he doesn't frown, the smile fades and he says, "In a place like this, in the astral city, in which mind and ideas flourish, and what is known as psychic powers greatly enhance our livelihood, it is like asking where one can get a weapon in which to snuff someone's life. Even if I know that is one bit of information I will not share."
Fair enough.
Tom, if you're speaking about your birthday, perhaps more information would be helpful.
It might, but
Maybe there's a way to help without nullifying your powers.
well, I mean, I figured it would be the best idea if you guys don't want to put me under.
Right, but perhaps if you're comfortable sharing, he might know better ways than that. He's already given me more information than I thought possible.
All right. Tom will turn over to the back over to the gem merchant and go. Every year, around the same time, around my birthday, I go through, well, I am a pyrokinetic, a burster.
He gives a nod in recognition.
And I seem to lose control of my powers. Like, it feels like, you know how you can move around and you can move your hand, and if you want to pick something up, you can just go and pick something up, but one day it feels as if you are trapped. But your body moves by itself. Flames just appear out of nowhere.
If I may, Tom, may I clarify?
Mm-hmm.
It seems at a yearly Earth cycle, a period of days, he loses control of his powers and becomes, as he says, flames go everywhere. At least I assume from all the stories.
Yes.
Are you conscious or unconscious during this time?
Conscious.
When you are conscious, what do you feel?
It feels like I'm there, but not really there.
The problem is not with the powers. The problems lie within your mind. You need someone to assist you with that.
All right.
I handed you a gem of a well-known, highly reputable healer, a man named Nezir. He would be my first. He is very good at dealing with traumas, secrets of the mind itself. Would you care for his gem again?
No, that's fine. We know where to find him.
I see. There, of course, are others, but I thought since you were looking for mental assistance for your friend, he would be able to provide some insight with that. Of course, I am not one to give proper advice. I am only one to try to answer questions and provide answers through the gems that surround me, as you can see. But I will relinquish this and give you one basic truth that is taught to all with psionic abilities that have been raised here in Psyscape. The only person in control of your mind is you. And if you lose control, that is because you're allowing it to happen for one reason or another. This is not to say the solution is easy. Perhaps proper rigorous training might be beneficial. May I ask who taught you to use your powers?
Well, oh boy. When I was much younger, a incident happened around my birthday, around when my powers actually start to lose control, and that was the first day I actually got them. Nobody really taught me.
Well, he says, I think there is your answer there. You were like a child abandoned out into the wilderness, left to fend for themselves until they're 8, and then they do not know how to speak a language. You are powerful, yet illiterate with using your own powers. Then I rescind my suggestion on Nezir. You need to be taught properly. And hopefully it is not too late.
Okay.
He gives, and now finally there's a final hint of a smile. He says, bad habits form very easily, and you seem to be in your middle years now.
Okay.
I would encourage, if you truly wish to heal and learn, to become a full participant here in Psyscape. Purchase some land or have some residential area here. Enroll in our academy. There you will find instructors who have taught there for decades upon decades, including pyrokinesists. However, if you insist on going back, roaming the world, there are, of course, freelance tutors that are willing to teach for material gain.
Okay. Let me think about it, and I'll come back. Because honestly, the only problems that I have are during that week.
No, he says. That's not true, and you know it as well as I do. I can tell by just looking into your eyes. There is something deeper. Something that simmers like that fire you say you control. The coals might be smoldering, but they're still there burning underneath of you.
I see. Would you recommend anybody?
He pauses for a moment, and he looks amongst his gems, and he closes his eyes and brings his chin to his chest, and he says, unfortunately, other than an advertisement and a breakdown of the itinerary of the Psychic Academy here in Psyscape, no one has embedded a gem with knowledge in which to tutor an individual in pyrokinetic abilities. However, I do know that at the consulate there are individuals there who extend their services. We do not allow any sort of military mercenary work, but we do allow teaching positions, tutor positions, or teaching of non-violent magical spells. He pauses for a moment. Well, I pause for a moment. Give me a moment here. Because they wouldn't have a name board. So I'm just trying to think on how freelancers communicate in Skyscape. This is not a question that is answered in any of the source books, so I'm just trying to figure out a realistic way in which this is done.
Take your time.
Yeah, take your time, man.
Okay, I think I have the kernel of something. Give me just a moment. Okay, he says, I do know one particular establishment in the consulate area called the Odd Ukulele. It is a place where various... The premier entertainment is telling songs, telling stories by song. Tales, ballads is one of the terminologies for it. It is a place where people are known, and the purveyor is known for joining people together who are looking for temporary or permanent companions. This proprietor of the Odd Ukulele is a strange, well, that is unfair for me to say strange. They are a unusual elf of a distant species. Suffice to say, they are green in color and typically reside in the waves. But if you are to find them, and he pauses for a moment, he says, Nylika. Her name is Nylika. If you're to find this Nylika and ask them for whom you're talking to, she is known for knowing many people. She might be able to assist, or at least and make you the proper introductions with those you seek. Sorry, that was a long-winded way, but I was, like I said.
No, that's cool.
All right.
I like it.
Groovy.
And he'll say thank you.
All right.
Al would say afterwards, he'd say, you've actually given us much information, and I know you say you need no thanks for it, but perhaps there is something you could ask of us. If knowledge is valuable to you, perhaps something you do not know that we might know?
I know of something.
Al would raise an eyebrow and look at Tom.
Have you ever heard of a ley line nexus exploding?
No, I have not.
Well, I know of one.
He gives a small sigh and says, you individuals from Earth, the culture shock is strange. What did I mention about knowledge and secrets? Are you waiting for me to ask you to share what you know? I cannot tell you to do so. Either share your knowledge or do not.
Okay. Along with gaining my powers, There was a certain incident that was a byproduct, I think, of this. Time seemed to stop as I watched my mother executed in front of me. A man approached me and offered me another way, a way to survive, because I was surrounded by many men of a certain military. I agreed to his terms. He touched my forehead. Not only did I wake up with fire powers, but I was engulfed in flames from a erupting ley line nexus that was near my town. And I woke up in a pool of molten glass.
Who was the stranger?
I honestly don't know. He was an old man, but for some strange reason, I felt that I could trust him. There was something about his voice and the way he talked that reminded me of somebody, and I don't remember what. He just seemed very familiar.
The gem purveyor nods slightly.
That's what I got. He'll turn over to the other guys.
I see.
I have no wish to hold any knowledge from you, but I don't know what knowledge you might find interesting.
Then go in peace.
Al nods again and turns to go.
Okay, where are you guys? Sorry, what's up?
I was just gonna say. Then I guess we sally forth somewhere.
Yeah.
Sally forth to where? I've given you guys all sorts of little side doodles.
Yeah, Al's good for now. He got his information, so he's gonna follow wherever you guys want to go.
Patrick, show us somewhere. Guide us.
Patrick, oh Patrick.
Piph?
Or he's
Or
in
not?
contemplation.
Okay. He's also muted.
Same diff.
Yeah, well.
Didn't know I was muted. Okay, so I was talking for so long. So if you guys are following Patrick, you guys are following Patrick?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so he's gonna go to the I think her name ended with Bell.
Jezebel's
Jezebel. Yes.
Jezebel's tomes and scrolls in the bazaar.
Yes.
Okie dokie. Sure enough, akin to the memory that was implanted in your head, thanks to that gem.
Mhm.
You know exactly what little side street you need to venture down. It's past a beautifully flowing orange tent, a small little silvery path. Sure enough, you find that small squat building made of what appears to be pure obsidian stone, colored black stone. And the doorway is actually open. Do you step inside?
He would look inside first to make sure that he's not imposing on something.
Well, you look inside and you poke your head inside to take a look. There are no windows, nothing to indicate whether the establishment is open or not. But the second you poke your nose in to take a look around, you're surrounded by two things. The first is you get a face full of air, and you remember that little memory, that smell of old parchment just hitting you. It's almost like there was a wall keeping the small, because there's an open doorway, right? So some sort of invisible wall was keeping this scent inside. And second of all, you can see that this place has no interior lighting in the electrical sense, and that Dozens upon dozens upon dozens of candles, all made of waxes of a variety of colors, dot the entire place. Randomly, it seems, on shelves, on roofs, on walls, even one or two on the floor. Lighting the room well enough, and you can see this place is almost seems to be in complete shambles. Imagine an old library that's been overpacked with books and scrolls. You don't see anyone else here, at least not in the dim light just yet.
All right. Patrick would step inside and try to search for a being.
Well, you do step inside, and nearby, on a nearby shelf, you see the edge of a shelf, and you see a small placard, and very similar to the writing on the signs of the streets in the cloud quadrant, the cloud section of Skyscape. As you concentrate and look upon it, the words shape in your mind. And if you think in Draconic terms, it says it in Draconic. If you think it in American terms, it says it in American. But right over top the placard is a small silver bell, which is attached to a very thin red rope. And the placard says, "Ring me and keep an open mind."
Patrick thinks for a moment. Looks like he kind of shrugs to himself and pulls the bell.
Okay. So the question is, do you keep an open mind, aka in game terms, are you going to allow a psionic action to happen upon your character or not?
Yes, he would.
Okay. All right. And as you do, you hear a faint, dainty, light female voice ring out in your head and says, "Welcome to my shop. I apologize if I'm not able to greet you in person, although I am present here. Please approach the back shelf, the one with the red velvet shelves upon it, and find me. My name is Jezebel, and I will be seen as clearly as a title on the cover of a book."
Okay. Patrick would try to figure out exactly what she meant by back, but hopefully the red velvet would probably be
Yeah,
more visible than.
sure. Well, it takes you a while for you kind of to scan around in the dim light. But sure enough, back in the far right-hand corner of the shop, you do see a shelf that does stand out from the others. This one isn't overflowing. This one has books neatly drawn upon it. And sure enough, the shelves are covered in what appears to be a red velvet.
Um, Patrick would most likely look at the shelf and not seeing. If he doesn't see anything that stands out that is not a book, he will start scanning the books for a book called Jezebel.
Okay. Well, there is nothing that stands out that isn't a book or a tome or a scroll. And instead, you do actually see on the second shelf a large green covered green book with a green dyed leather cover. And sure enough, on the spine, in a flowing golden script, simply writes the word Jezebel.
Patrick stares blankly at it.
Okay.
He's currently trying to think about if he's ever even heard about a being that was a book, and how interesting that would have been.
All right. Well, go ahead, and it sounds like you want to make a lore check, doesn't it?
You know what? Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, and if you're wondering about a being who's a book, you're gonna have to do, I think, DBs and monster lore. Make it harder by 40.
Oh boy. All right.
Yep.
Do.
Nothing comes to mind.
Well, he contemplates that for a bit, but after a small moment of observing it a little bit, he will then try to open it.
Okay. Well, as you reach out for the book itself, I have to ask you again, are you keeping an open mind?
Yes.
Okay. So as you reach for the book, it almost feels like there's a small spark, but not on your fingers, a spark in your mind for a moment, almost like a little jolt. And as you pick up the book itself, the Al and Tom, you can see the book opens on its own in Patrick's hand. And it is a book that's filled with hundreds of pages. And pages begin to leaf and fly open. And sure enough, near the center of the book, it opens up. And you are just looking at, you can see Patrick is looking at what appears to be a blank page. But Patrick, what you see is something very different. You see a woman who appears to be in her either early 40s to mid 40s. She has long hair, hair that goes down to her hips, and it flows all over her face. And she is relatively attractive. She has sharp features, though, a slender, thin nose, and a sharp chin that almost goes to a blunted point. She's also entirely etched as an illustration. Imagine a pencil drawing of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks up at you through the book, and as she speaks, her mouth moves this illustration. She simply says, "Welcome to my store. I see that you are human, and I can sense that this is a new experience for you. Of course, I'm always happy to have new customers. How can I assist you? I, of course, am Jezebel."
Hello.
Hello. And you hear, by the way, Al and Tom, you hear Patrick say hello to the book, to the blank book.
You know, I don't find it that surprising, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right then. Patrick will then say, I am looking for some writings on beings of light.
She says, yes, I do have that in my collection. In fact, I penned a new volume, if you don't mind the small pun, about a few months back. Is there any particular being of light that you're interested in? Some divine god or spirit of it? Or are you simply looking for a tome of general knowledge?
I am looking for generalities at this point.
I see. Well, she says, I suppose I could pen a new one to replace one that I were to sell you. However, she gives a bit of a smile. I am not comfortable taking standard currencies. That is not to say that it is impossible. It's just, as you can tell, as a person myself, there's not much I can do to spend it. Whereabouts are you from? What do you have? What do you use where you are from in order to pay for goods or services?
We either use trade or something called credits.
Trade. I'm glad to see that realm of bargaining is still utilized where you are from. What are you willing to trade for this tome of mine? It is, more specifically, she says, a 300-page volume detailing the histories and the philosophies and the etymologies of known beings of light. She says it's actually quite interesting too. Over half the book is spoken of first-hand accounts of those who have encountered these beings, rather than some old musing diatribes of, well, theories and research and ancient lore picked up. As you can see, I do prefer the more narrative sort of thing. Something that has a bit of a story to it, something that evokes the imagination.
Um, Patrick is nodding, thinking to himself. Well, I do have a few sparse books of my own collection. I
I
also
see.
have something that's a bit more unique. I have a fairly large volume of uh, pictures that I've been taking throughout my journey.
You see a wide smile on her face, and she says, "Pictures."
Um, yes, still images of.
Oh, I
Um,
know what a picture is, she says. Um, Although, I wonder, do you have one handy so I can see um, an example of a picture that you have taken?
um, you know what? Um, Patrick will say, I will have to take a moment to print a physical one, but I can definitely get you a few for examples.
She says, if you do not have an example handy, that is fine. You can simply answer. What kind of pictures? Give me an example of at least some of the things that you like to take. Are they pictures of landscapes? Are they pictures of friends? Are they um, violent? Are they peaceful?
Oh, I would say only a few are violent. Most of them are peaceful. A few of more exotic beings and places. Um,
That, she says. How many pictures of exotic beings and places do you have? The non-violent ones.
oh, um, one. I have quite a few from. What was that? I'm actually blanking on that. What was the Atlantis place called?
Oh my God. The Splint Market of
Splin,
Splin.
yeah.
Splin.
Splin Market.
I have quite a few pictures of the architecture of Splin, a Atlantean marketplace.
Those, she says. Bring me all of those that you have, preferably in a printed format, and we will have a trade.
Patrick will nod, um, and he'll actually get out his computer and something.
Mm-hmm.
He also pulls out something called a portable handheld. A portable handheld computer with
Okay.
micro printer.
Yep. Yay, micro printers. Handy in this. Okay.
Yay.
Yay. So now we're going to do a retroactive photography skill, if that's okay by you. You didn't take the photography skill when you took the pictures of Atlantis. You just took some pictures, right? But
I
this
believe
might.
so.
But okay. Go ahead and roll one. No modifiers.
Right. Ooh. Should I should probably lower my level by 10. 10%.
Okay,
Because I was
because you
probably
took it
lower
when
level.
you're.
Yeah.
Okay.
Skill check, photography. Oh. Huh.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, no, they are all clear pictures with no thumbs in the way or light or anything like that. So, yeah, you're good.
Sorry there wasn't more of the civilians. I didn't want to upset them at the time.
She says, I like architecture. That's fine. And she instructs you to place the pictures, the printed pictures, off on the same shelf, the satin covered shelf, which her book or which she lays.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, now, the tome that you're looking for is pure white in color, and it has a dark blue inscription on both the spine and the cover. It simply reads, First-hand accounts of the spirits above. It should be found, she pauses for a moment, and a few more pages flip in Jezebel's book. And you see another illustration. The visage of the woman disappears. Instead, there seems to be a top-down map of the place. And a small illustrated hand floats out of nowhere and points towards a shelf along the eastern side. And she says, this shelf, if I do remember.
Huh. Thank you. Where would you like to be put back, or can you do that on your
She
own?
gives a bit of a laugh and she says, I can usually fend for myself, but if you would be so considerate to just put me back where you found me, it's nice and snug in there.
Patrick will say, it will be done. And
Great.
close it gently.
Ow!
And slide it gently into place.
There you go. And I can say you're able to retrieve the book easily with the instructions. Yeah. And you have yourself a new tome.
Al would hesitantly
so-
say, find what you're looking for, Patrick?
I believe and hope so. This should be exactly what I'm looking for.
So, Piph, I'm going to give you a special bonus for this. When you write this down into your inventory, please keep track of this bonus so I don't remember it and need to remember it for it later.
Okay.
But when identifying any spirit of light, you get a plus 40% to any lore
Okay.
checks in regards to that.
Got it.
Wow, that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a spiritual computer database.
Not quite. It's just a lot of like first-hand accounts and general knowledge in regards to that, right? So typically how I do lore checks is how much you succeed or fail by is how much you learn of it, right? So that plus 40% is, mathematically speaking, is going to give him a higher chance of succeeding greater, which means he's going to learn more stuff.
Makes
about
sense.
them. Yeah.
Yes. Good. Patrick will, of course, be reading this along any sort of walking excursions in any directions you guys may be going.
Okie dokie. So where do you guys want to head to next, or what would you like to do next? We can pull back, narratively speaking. You can visit a few other places. You could try, the odd ukulele, or you can go back to the Scarlet Dome, or you can say, hey, we're going to just wait till this X amount of time and go see Nebuzir. I mean, I'm flexible.
I like the last option.
Okay,
yeah, sure.
Well, I wouldn't mind like a little narrative, like wander around the city or
Sure.
see if something happens. But
See the sights and all
yeah,
that.
there's
Good stuff.
nothing
I could
specific
spin a
in my
small
mind.
little tale in regards to that to kind of give the city some life, but I'm more curious as to your next objective.
Yeah, there's no specific objective in my mind other than talking to Nebuzir, but I mean, we're in a place few people ever get to travel. It would be, I think, a disservice to our characters if we didn't take a tour or something.
Sure.
What about you guys?
I'm cool
Um,
with whatever.
all right.
I mean, if you
would-
have an objective in mind, then by all means, that would trump just about anything else.
I've gotten mine.
Yeah,
But
Alright.
how about you, Boone?
I don't really have an objective unless you guys want to try and look into getting a teacher for Tom.
Yeah, the problem with getting a teacher is that you would have to live here.
No. There's the
No.
traveling tutor.
The traveling
the
tutor.
traveling tutor.
Like
oh, yeah,
Lee.
yeah. Or yeah, unless Firebrand isn't someone you'd want to train with.
Oh, I'd love to. It's just
We
I don't
could
know
always
where in the
ask,
world he is.
But we know someone who would, and they're on the ship.
He's not.
No, but
Zoe is.
Yeah.
Zoe is.
And
That's true.
My thought was this: if we approach Zoe saying, "Look, we have this problem," maybe we can ask the Firebrand if he would want to train Tom and let him know that there is actually a problem. He needs a teacher and see what he says. Because, like, from my thoughts, Tom would connect better and probably learn better from him because they already have, they're already, positive relationship. I can't form words right now.
We're
Tom likes-
already friends.
Yes, that's the word.
Friends? You forgot that. Friends.
You forgot your friends, Squee.
I could not
This is
think
why
of
we
the
can't
word
have nice
friends.
things. You
I
forgot
couldn't
your
think of the
friends.
damn word friends. I don't know what's wrong with me. I live a sad, lonely life. No, but that's just my thoughts. We can always look into the other teacher, though.
I'd rather have the Firebrand, honestly, if I were to have a teacher.
Okay. So, tell you what, I can give you a kind of a brief little fun little narrative description about some of the sights to see that you might be wandering and wish to pass some time.
Sure.
So my only question to you is, when do you want to wait to approach Nebuzir again?
My thought was a day and see.
Okay. So wait until the next day?
Sure.
Okay, so we would... Okay, all right. We'll say next day. So I think I know one attraction here in Skyscape that would definitely eat up a lot of your time for those who are interested. I already mentioned the city gardens, but there's also a city zoo. Although zoo is not the right terminology for it. The facility is more like an expansive animal preserve that sprawls for miles at the south end of the city, or at least, what seems to be south in this astral plane in which this city resides. It contains, I kid you not, 20,000 non-sentient animals.
Jesus.
And they come from all areas across the earth, as well as from countries all across different dimensions and planes across the megaverse. They live in protective areas that simulate the natural environment and also allows visitors to safely view. It's extremely well staffed. and I can't go into the 20,000 different species in which you would embark, but I will do this for you guys.
Mhm.
If your characters are interested in purveying the zoo, for those who do so for a good chunk of the day, who spend at least 3 hours looking around, I'll give you a +5 to your monster and DB lore check.
Sure.
A permanent increase.
Let's spend a month. No, yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Okay.
I would definitely have Patrick do that.
I don't have one. Yay!
Well, neither do I, but that means instead of a
0%
5%,
or
yeah.
unskilled. You have an unskilled +5. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do those who have monster and lore get a +5. Those who don't have monster lore, you'll gain the skill at a 10% level.
Oh, I'm all for
Holy
it.
shit! Yeah, I'll take that.
There you go.
Watch, like 6 months from now, we keep identifying things with fantastic rolls.
Whatever. Then that just means you happened upon it
Mm-hmm.
when you're in the zoo. Now, once I said, these are all non-sentient animals. This isn't a slave area. You'll learn very quickly that people from Skyscape abhor slavery in all of its forms. So, you spend a large part of the day traversing along the zoo, and when you're finally tired and require some sleep, you return to the Scarlet Dome Refresh Hotel. Well, actually, see, it's actually called the Scarlet Dome Refresh. It doesn't use the hotel at all, but I'm using hotel as a descriptor, so you know it's a place where you sleep. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'll just call it the Scarlet Dome Refresh at this point. You get a full night sleep. In the astral plane, the sun doesn't set. So
Do we mean
your
we
time
sleep
on
a
your
full
clock.
cycle?
Yeah, you sleep a full cycle, and for individuals who are used to a day-night cycle, thankfully the Scarlet Dome simulates that, so it's not bright outside any of the windows or anything like that when you're trying to get some sleep. There is some positive news in regards to Mila. She awakes from time to time. She is definitely in the Mila personality. She tells a few strange, childlike stories before she says she's tired and she needs to get back to sleep. These episodes happen for about 5 minutes at a time. But it's clear that, well, you don't know what she's like mentally speaking, because whenever she falls asleep, she is like conked out. And if any person attempts to try to cause her to arise, to wake up, she mutters 5 more minutes and rolls over to her side. But a new day has dawned, so to speak. And shall I narrate you guys back to where Nezir is?
Sure.
So you retrace your steps back into the Cloud City, Cloud Quadrant. And although it takes you a little bit of extra time, since the streets that carry along here are very unconventional, and the ectoplasma that shimmer and shifts kind of puts you on unawares. In fact, I'd like anyone who has land navigation to roll it right now and make it harder by 20, which I think is just Patrick. Okay. So it takes you an extra 20 minutes, and you go down a couple wrong streets, but Patrick's able to get you guys recentered until you're definitely back at the foot of the building, in which Nezir's office, for lack of a better word, is. Once again, you enter through this ectoplasmic, and it takes a good 15 minutes. And for a moment, you guys, aren't sure what to do. Before the walls slowly begin to close in on you, and once again, in this small bubble, you rise up to another floor. And when the ectoplasmic vapor substance clouds away from your vision, you see a different sight than when you initially met Nebazir. His long-backed oak chair is still there, but the desk is gone. Around him, still only about 15 feet around him, are the richly carpeted floor and the wooden walls. But the rest of the room is now just its regular, shapeless, greenish yellow ectoplasmic substance. You can step on it just fine, but it doesn't have the shape of wood or carpet. And there are no chimes ringing in the distance. And the chair is faced away from you, towards what behind to see is a crackling fire. But even then, the fire seems weak and pitiful. And the embers aren't even a vibrant orange or red. They seem to also have a pale, yellow, sickish green glow to it. And you hear the voice of Nebazir coming from behind the chair. You have returned.
Yes, but we would like to understand what happened.
She is not with you, he says, but it's more of a statement. He says, you'll have to excuse me. I don't really have the energy to construct a welcoming office space. And the chair floats a little bit in the sky, and it turns around, and you do see Nebazir. His forked beard, however, seems tattered, as if he's been running his fingers through it constantly. His hair looks disheveled, and there are bags underneath his eyes. You might have gotten a fine night's sleep, but it's clear that Nebazir did not.
It is perfectly all right. We understand enough, at least, to know that your ordeal was not kind to you.
You know nothing, but that is fine, he says, flicking his red coat. Before, we made a deal about me assisting your friend, and you would invoke with my friends, he says, with a bit of bitterness tone, the greatness and wonder of my power. Now I have failed, so you have returned seeking answers. I'll give you these answers for one reason and one reason alone. I have a feeling you will not stop pestering me until I give them to you. Is that fair, Tisu?
We are patient, but yes, it would continue.
I only ask for one more favor to assist me. And if you knew the ordeal I went through, and if you were of kind of heart, which I like to think you are, you might agree. Instead, now I ask you to give a vow of secrecy. Do not tell anyone what happened here. I'm already going to have to extend significant social credit amongst my friends to ensure that rumors do not spread and my reputation is not destroyed. I have worked a long time to be considered Nebazir of the Mind's Eye, and I hate for that to be stripped due to a single traumatic experience. If you agree to do this, I will not only detail what I experienced, but give you my thoughts and insight upon the visions I saw.
I have no problem giving that oath. To be fully open, there was one a Sai Warrior who had asked what happened before we were sure Mila was okay, and
Oh, yes, he visited. But we had a small, frank conversation.
he's the only one that we have even spoken to about the matter. So,
I appreciate it. I answered his questions. He was curt and straightforward. I may have framed things into making you seem more ignorant than you are, but like I said, I have a reputation to uphold. I hope you don't mind.
I honestly don't care. You
Good.
tried to help our friend, whatever your reasons, and that means a lot to me.
Well, do not extend your thanks just yet. Wait, before I go, you say you'll take a vow on keeping this secret. I want to hear it for all of you. What do you, and he'll look over to Al first. He says, religious or material, what do you hold dear? What would you swear on? Your life, a loved one, a god, an ideal. Tell it to me.
Al thinks for quite a long time, and then he says, "Oh God, what would he swear on?" Hang on. I swear upon my oath as a doctor to help. To That's not very helpful, is it? The only thing in this life that matters to me are my friends. So I suppose I swear
And
upon
swear
them.
on that. Good. And he looks over to Tom, you.
A loved one.
A loved one? Just a loved one? You need to invoke their name.
Janina Blanco, I think. That was it, right, Inferno? Or is it Blacko?
Good memory. No, see, I'm not going to scold you for not forgetting names. Although I do feel bad for that because I'm shit for it. I think it's maybe I was tired of saying Nebazir all the time last time, and I'm like, I can't believe you guys can't remember it. I said his name a million times.
No, that's fine.
That's okay. That's just me. And Nebazir, the aforementioned Nebazir, looks over to Patrick and gives a gesture with his
I
hand.
swear on something that would actually bite back. I swear on Tyrath.
Nebazir seems too tired and frazzled to even give a follow-up question. And the very fact, but he does flinch at the name Tyrath, almost like it's bringing up a bad memory. As he says, good, by this I bind your oath of secrecy. Now, with that formality out of the way, shall I start from the beginning, or do you have questions you wish to ask me already?
I believe we would just like to know what you've seen. In detail would be preferable.
And your thoughts upon them, yes.
Very well. And may all that is sacred bear witness upon me. This, I hope, is the last time I utter these words of what I saw, to you and to you alone. I have been in contemplation, wondering if I should wipe these memories from my mind, but then I realized that path is ignorance. I cannot grow if I do not learn, and you cannot learn if you do not fail. I'm just not used to it, if you don't mind. When I first entered her mind, as I mentioned before, it was a simple scouting mission, so to speak, a simple probe, a way for myself to peer into her old memories to see what might be troubling her. I first came across as myself my own body upon a beautiful, sunny, green field, and I was greeted by a small lizard-like creature, humanoid, with a pointed hat and a cape along its back. It had a list in front of it, and it asked me who I was, and I gave him my name. I told him. He said my name wasn't on his list. I think, and I still do, that this is a representative of her childlike personality, in which is used to protect deeper secrets. I cajoled this little creature that called itself Tiny Wrath, perhaps a relation or a different pronunciation of what you swore upon, good sir. But after a while, it said it would let me pass. I asked it questions, but it either played stupid or didn't know what I was talking about. Questions about what it represented, and so on and so forth. Beyond me laid a door, and my first mistake was to enter through that door itself, accepting the limitations of our own mind. In doing so, I became an active participant in the memories. I was no longer just an outsider observing it. I, for lack of a better word, started to play the game, involved myself in the farce, and that, unfortunately, you might not know, is a dangerous thing for sensitive mystics like myself. But I was bold and foolish, he says, as he runs more fingers through his forked beard. When I entered the door, there was a scene in which I played the part of an older gentleman. I was clearly sick, couldn't see very well, and the woman in question, the one you called Mila, was standing over me. The other that accompanied me, the wolfen creature, the one you call Bear, was there in the vision as well as two other individuals, a young, squat, red-haired young man and an elder with a high, wiry voice. They were talking about a plague that befell their town, and they were arguing as to what to do next. The red-headed young man and the tinny-voiced leader butted heads until finally it came into agreement that the wolfen creature, the one you call Bear, the one whose name I sensed was Bear, would take a scouting party to a nearby town to look for help. Then the vision faded, and I came across a black void in which the little lizard creature who insisted I called it Tiny Wrath showed up once again. I sensed the pain of the last vision I saw, of misery, a deep, throbbing hurt, but I sensed there was more, and sure enough, there was another door. It was still with the memory game, you see, and I thought I was still in control. I ignored the signs, and I stepped forward through that door once again. The next vision I had was disturbing. I was plunged into the body of a man who burned to death alive. I felt the flicker of fire on my skin and smoke in my lungs, and I died in that memory. Another void, another door, but no little lizard this time. Wait, I'm going to pause for a moment. You guys can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
We heard the
If for
entire
whatever
thing.
reason I cut out, let me know, just so I'm not repeating
Yeah,
stuff.
we can put a plus sign in the chat.
Sure. I appreciate it.
Hmm.
Or you can just say, "Oh, Inferno, we can't hear you."
Oh, that
That
works
works
too.
too. Anyways, he says, void again, but no little lizard creature this time. And I went to the door once more. I opened it up, and another vision of death and destruction. I was a young woman. I spoke the voice of a young woman, and I invoked great trauma to my left leg. It was hanging by a sinewy thread. Great beings in large armor were taunting me as I tried to escape. They threw me to the ground and crushed me. They laughed. Their strange, shimmering armor, the last thing I saw. And I died again. Another void, another door. I remember realizing that what I did might have been a mistake, that I didn't need to probe further, that I could withdraw at this point. But I sensed there was more, there was much more. And I knew that I was in control of my own mind and that the deaths that I died were just figments of the imagination. I had more mental fortitude than that. I was wrong, for when I went into that door, I died another dozen times. A village on fire, shot to death, crushed to death, hiding to be dragged out, to be mocked. Carnage, so much carnage, he says, and he lowers his head into his hands. And Nezir pauses for a few minutes until you think it was done, but then he croaks out a continuation. A void again. I don't know why, but I stepped through the door. I was expecting more. Death and carnage and chaos and fear and hatred. But what I felt, what I experienced before, was I was in a barn-like environment. Someone was combing my hair. A song was being sung. I don't know who was doing it. I don't know who was singing or combing my hair, but I have an inkling. It was her. It was this Mila woman. Or at least an aspect of her. The feelings fade slightly. There was a gun in my hand, and across the other side of the barn was the door, the same door I've been walking through this entire time. The gun got heavy in my hand. I cannot recall what happened next, but I do remember going through that door one last time. And when I went through the door, the green meadow when I first stepped inside the mine was black and twisted. The blue sky, a disgusting, billowy gray. And before I escaped, I felt a presence. I ask you, based on the visions that I saw, you are from Earth, yes?
Yes.
As was I once upon a time. Do you know what a bear is?
Yes.
Creature, yes.
Not, yes, and not the name of the wolfen, but the actual creature, yes. Imagine, I paint a picture to you, and I've been trying to articulate this to my own mind, and this is the best I can think of. Imagine a mother bear. She has 3 cubs. One lies dead, one lies wounded, and the other one lies healthy but fearful behind the mother bear. The mother bear herself is wounded, backed up against a stony corner as hunters come to kill her. Imagine the protective fear and rage and wrath of that mother bear, that fierceness in which to protect its cub. That is the raw energy that I felt. That is the raw energy that everyone felt during my little soiree. It is why they all escaped. It is why I cowered. To experience it is one thing, but to feel it, as if it vibrated into the very core of your mind, is one thing entirely. Now, please, even recollection of that feeling makes me nauseous and queasy. Give me a few minutes to collect myself, and then I will give you my thoughts, my introspections on what happened.
Al would only nod, not wanting to say anything to disrupt him. Yeah.
Patrick would remain completely silent.
Appreciating the silence, Nezir turns to his chair around to face the flickering greenish fire again before he turns around, seated back on this, and he says, "First, I will tell you what I think of the symbols, and then I will give you insight into some of the visions that I saw. The first symbol, obviously, is the door. I believe it is just what it is in real life, a portal, a barrier between one room and the next. But this is memories from one room to a next. And the door, the construction of the door, it plays a part in a very particular memory, a very traumatic memory, the one that involves the red-headed man, her singing, and a gun. What happened, I do not know. I was not able to probe into any much further than that. That was not all I was able to experience before that. The little lizard mage, as I mentioned before, the one called Tiny Wrath, is, in my mind, a jester character, something seen as simple and dumb and goofy, a jester, if you like. But behind it, underneath of it, is something far more foreboding, something far more powerful. It mentioned that it was to fill in at the last minute, which means my arrival was very unexpected, and this jester character was forced to take on a more insidious role, a more protective role. The mountains of deaths steam with guilt. The bickering decisions on what to do next. The figures arguing shows their own indecisiveness as to what happened in her past. This young woman is plagued with guilt and sorrow. Now, there is another fact that I think you should know, something that she herself did not realize, but now I, of a different mind, peering into this vision, recall it correctly. The figures in the armor, they had an insignia on their left arms, a black tower with green, red, and yellow coloring around it. 12 years ago, an individual of the race called Kitani came. He was plagued by nightmares of seeing a legendary unit come and kill his squad, leaving him alone to die. I assisted him in relieving these memories, and in doing so, I've learned this knowledge. The individuals in her visions, in her past, the men in strange armor, are of a race called Kitani, or Kitani to other dialects. And these ones are Kitani of something called the 14th Karak. Legends state that on a planet of the Kitani, Karak was one of their prime jewels, a perfect planet for industry and innovation. An ancient foe came to crush it, and the planetary forces stationed there had two choices: flee and fight another day, or fight and die. The 1st to 15th Karak decided to stay and die in glory, while the 16th to the 32nd Karak decided to regroup and fight for another day. It was assumed that the 1st to the 15th Karak all died upon that planet. But years later, after the war was finished, after the Kitani pledged their lives and their service to Splagorthian masters, rumors began to abound that the 14th Karak survived, and they were incredibly displeased by the cowardice of their fellow Kitani. They are seen as a rogue group, a group that does not serve the Splagorth or any other power, that serves themselves and their own glory. They are boogeymen of the Kitani, known to show up, traverse across different dimensions, and attack swiftly and withdraw. I know not much else other than these old legends that this poor Kitani who came to me for mental healing came. But at the very least, you have some insight as to who or what affected her so.
I think Al would stammer. I thank you for telling us what you could.
There's no need to thank me. Just keep your vow. You say this to no one. What happened last night? What happened yesterday? You tell no one. I need to move on from this, and I cannot do so if I'm seen as a coward who cannot help a simple woman with mind over matter implants and her repressed memories.
I understand. I will keep my vow.
If you have further questions, I suggest you ask them now while the memory is still fresh, because, as I said, although I might not wipe my own mind, I have no interest in spewing out this uncomfortable bile again.
You say that she is racked with guilt. Do you at all get the sense that perhaps dealing with those who caused this might alleviate the guilt?
He shakes his head and he says, I have no idea.
I see.
Although I will say this, the guilt did not lie in the deaths of all those people. It is in part there, but there is something else. Something else I did not have a chance to see. Something deeper, something more personal. That is the heart of that guilt. And even if the guilt is alleviated, it doesn't get rid of the sorrow, and it doesn't get rid of the wrath.
Speaking of Tiny Wrath, the small
Yes.
creature you saw, you said that he had a list. Did you get to see, or did he rattle off any of them?
The list, I did have a chance to take a look at it. It was merely scribbles. There were no names upon the list. Once again, a farce. Another reason why I think it was a jester character. A fool, a child, which might explain its childlike name and its childlike stature. It even spoke with a lisp, like a young girl does sometimes.
This isn't my last chance to get this information. I want to make sure that I have as many details as I can, so I know and have an educated next step.
I understand. You don't truly know unless you experience it, but even if you were my greatest foe, I doubt I'd put you inside of her head. Well, he pauses for a moment. Maybe if you were my greatest foe. But I tend to try to keep feelings of resentment out of my mind. It doesn't help with the healing process.
I guess that would be it for Patrick.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the
All
top
right.
of my head, Burn.
Well, I'm not a GM that punishes people that harshly, and I understand what it's like to be thought on the spot of, so this is what we're going to do. If in a session or two you guys are like, oh fuck, I really wish I asked that, right? You simply ask me out of character, be like, we speak of it in the third person, be like, oh yeah, I think Patrick would have asked this. What would have Nezir have said? And I'd be like, oh, well, Nezir would have said blank. You know what I mean? Once again, we're telling a story together, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why I'm not an inflexible asshole. You know what I mean? There are some things, you know what I mean? So don't. So if there's something.
Patrick would have a question.
Oh, okay.
Of these different events, I'm assuming Mila was present at quite a few of them.
No. She is present only in 2. Well, 1 for certain, the second one is inferred. 1 for certain was the one where I was playing a dying sick man, and they were arguing about the future of a town called, he closes his eyes, Penshaw. The second inference was the singing and the combing of the hair. I could not see her face, but the voice did sound familiar.
I was hoping to maybe have knowledge of time between events. The age of her might have helped.
In the vision of the lying in the cabin, she looked almost as if she did now. Maybe. No, she has a youthful face. She was not a teenager nor an adolescent. She was a grown woman, as she is a grown woman now.
So these events are most likely close to each other.
Perhaps. Memory knows no time, only experience. Time is for the waking world.
Would you know if a event in this would have been an implied memory?
I mean, do I feel if any of the memories are false?
Yes, the man with the heavy gun. Of course, you looked through all of these through other people's eyes. Some of them didn't even have Mila in them. I am trying to figure out if she has implied these upon herself. The man with the gun and her stroking through his hair while singing. It seems fantastical. Like something was, like she may have implied him killing himself and edged him on, but may have not been an actual event.
5 months ago, when I was at the height of my power and glory and filled with confidence, I would say for certain, but now I do not know. I do not know. I underestimated that mind, and I paid a very embarrassing price for it. So no, I cannot say with any certainty I am sorry, whether it was true or an illusion or something else. All I know is that it was in her mind, and it was meant for me to experience.
Do you feel that it was something of a protection or something that was something that she felt was at least real?
He pauses for a moment, he spins around, and he looks at the fire, and he answers your question by not looking at you. What sticks with me the most is that last feeling, that feeling of a wounded mother bear protecting her cubs.
Could that have been a personality?
I
Protecting
do not know.
the other personalities from potentially you, an intruder?
Perhaps. I felt its presence come stronger and stronger until it was heavy upon my chest, which is when I knew I had to escape, or it might not have come out at all.
That is it for Patrick.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Alrighty.
I think I'm fine.
All right.
Unless you guys want to push Tom to have Nebazir look at him.
No, God, no.
Yeah. I think he's gone through enough for now.
We have used this man enough.
Yes.
He is spent. If he was an E-clip, he would be on empty.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think we should take our leave.
Okay. Take your leave the same way you left. And you're back on the streets of the city of the clouds, the cloud sector. Now I wonder, my friends, ironically, you're ending here around the exact same place on the street in front of Nebazir's office that you started this session on. But
Yeah, but with more information, so I mean, it's better.
I like to think a lot more information.
Mm-hmm.
Tons more information. I mean, given what we learned.
So is it fair to say that this is a good point to end it so you guys can process all this information and decide what you want to do for next session?
Well, especially since, and then we would probably have Criana's back, so
Mila we're going to arrange it so we have Criana face, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yay. All right.
So I will click the stop streaming button. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time, probably
Bye-bye.
Wednesday for Three Galaxies. Don't forget Sundays is usually Rifts, but this week we'll be changing our Rift schedule
We don't know
around
what
a
day
little
yet.
bit. We will
Yeah.
announce on Twitter. Please check the hashtag RiftyFell for further news. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Also, I love you.